So there was a protest in Parliament Square in London, and I told you guys and urged you guys to go there. I wanted to show you some of the pictures and videos of the protest for Julian Assange. People came out to support. There you can see the Houses of Parliament behind. Let me play you a video from Julian Assange's wife, from Stella.
I'm getting asked, where are we at? Well, we're really at the end game now. The fight is on. This is my message. Yes, the legal avenues have narrowed dramatically, but we were ready for this, right? We know what kind of battle we're fighting. A political battle, a fight against injustice, where people speaking out, witnessing this injustice, and giving it a name is what will stop it. This statue here today has this message, anything to say. These three men are every man.
Yes.
They witnessed injustice and they spoke up. And we need to speak up just like they did.
Definitely.
Because that's what makes us human.
Yes.
By gagging them, by imprisoning them, by punishing them, they're punishing all of us.
Yes,
because they told us what we needed to know about injustice being carried out in our name against us. Julian depends on each and every one of you, and every person you can speak to inform them, to move them into understanding what's at stake. And what's at stake is democracy itself.
Yes.
The case against Julian goes to the heart, the fundamentals of what it means to live in an open, democratic society where we can challenge authority, where we can speak up, whether we're right or wrong. We have to be able to speak, to refine our ideas, to be able to be challenged. And just because there are people in position of authority, they're abusing their authority, they're abusing the legislation, they're abusing the surveillance tools that have been developed over the last decade or so, and they're abusing the coercive powers of the state, physical and digital, to prevent you from speaking out. We are losing our rights. Julian's case is caught up in a trajectory in which we are all losing our rights. And the right to freedom of speech is at the center of all our democratic rights. It underpins everything. We will lose all our rights if we lose the freedom of speech. And Julian's case is the most righteous case of freedom of speech today, in our generation, in this century. We have to free him. His life depends on it, but all our lives and our liberties also depend on it. Thank you.
I know that people tend to perhaps overuse this term, like, oh, it's a fight for freedom and so on. But she's right. In this case, every word she said is correct and true. And we're getting a lot of new subscribers here. So for those of you who don't know, Julian Assange, they're trying to extradite him from the UK to the US, right? And I've been covering his trial, or case rather, for the last 2-3 years. So if you've heard of the case, or you've heard of Assange, but you don't really know the gist of it, I'll tell you in just a moment. But I want you to know there are playlists. So I've done playlists in order every single day by day, explaining what happened in court. There's the main chunk that took place over 4 weeks in autumn, and then the High Court and the appeal and so on. So I've separated everything chronologically in these playlists. Basically, it's very simple. He published or WikiLeaks published documents about war crimes in Iraq, war crimes in Afghanistan. These are U.S. war crimes. And then also the Guantanamo Bay prisoners or detainees. And then also the State Department files. I mean, it's like a treasure trove, for me. This is like Christmas, just going through them, and that's why they're indicting him. I think a lot of people have not a lot, but there's a good chunk of people that have been like brainwashed by the media and propagandized. And so they have this association of like, oh, Julian Assange, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, like this like wild nut job conspiracy theory, like somehow him doing his job helped Donald Trump win. You do know that Donald Trump is the one who's trying to extradite him and put him in prison for 2 centuries, right? You do understand this? I really doubt Julian Assange has any nice feelings or thoughts about Donald Trump, never mind helping him win an election. And I want to be very clear that, this whole case is like nothing even to do even with that whole election, right? So forget this misconception that you might have of, oh, Julian Assange and Hillary Clinton. Remove this from your mind. It's nonsense that they fed you from the media. This case is about war crimes that, evidence of war crimes he published. It's from talking about 2010, 2011 and so on. So that's it. It's period. Nothing more, nothing less. And the problem with this, why it's so bad, I mean, Americans are supposed to have stronger, constitutional rights and protections, for free speech in the United States. They're supposed to have better ones than in England. There's no constitution in England, right? So there's a collection of documents like the Bill of Rights and so on, but there's no actual constitution, and it doesn't really matter. But because Bill of Rights and so on, they're supposed to afford you certain protections, but the American one is, on paper at least, it looks ironclad. And here's the truth. It's not. And if you have this case going ahead, this is bad for people in the UK and the US. Do you understand? And Julian Assange is not just some random journalist. He is one of the top dogs, right? One of the best. So, I mean, even if this was happening to another journalist, doesn't make it okay. That's not my point. My point is that if they can do this in the open, in public, in central London, to a top journalist, what do you think other journalists? What chance do you think other journalists stand? What do you think what chance do other people stand? Right? It's about free speech. There's no like clause in the U.S. Constitution for journalists. It's just free speech. You could be a plumber, you're a skydiver, maybe you flip burgers, you're a teacher. Doesn't matter. You have this right to free speech. You can publish whatever document you like. This is on paper, right? Whether he published them in the UK or the US is irrelevant, but I think it's scary. It is so scary that he is not in the US. He did not publish in the US, and this country is trying to like snatch him from across the Atlantic. What the hell? Like, he has, what does that even mean? Can China like snatch? Do you think they would stand for this if China was quote unquote snatching an American journalist from India, or just to give you a hypothetical scenario? They would go wild. They would go ballistic. And you can see actually right now how they talk about how Biden is like, he's concerned for this American journalist who's been detained in Russia. Now, I'm not familiar with his case. My instinct is to say that's wrong, because usually when they say, "Oh, I think it works Wall Street Journal, right?" So usually when a state says this journalist is a spy, that's a lie. It's usually an excuse to put him in prison. Usually. So that's my instinct, is to say this is wrong. But I'm not familiar with this case, and I don't have to be, because my point here is about the reaction from the US government. The hypocritical concern for an American journalist in Russia, but no concern for an Australian journalist in the United Kingdom who's trying to be taken to some federal supermax prison in Colorado by force. Do you see this hypocrisy? It's really, really bad. So there you go. The more people protest, the better. And well done to all of you who came out. I hope I was able to urge and encourage some of you to go. And I hope it was good. And hopefully Julian's free soon. Free Julian Assange.